Om Namah Shivaya Sri Ganeshaya Namah. Hello, I am Chandan Kumar Mishra. Once again sharing you my research and development based reports as infer after media broadcast reviews about peace enforcement related initiatives. Sri Ganeshaya Namah. So let us come to the point directly. There is a question like discuss the solution for given context rationally. Although peace is virtue and epitome of ethics, but usually all kinds of attacks are countered by retaliation by affected vulnerable victims and survivors of victims. Peace negotiations supporting the weaker party, humanitarian relief and rescue mission continues as usually. So प्रश्न है नीचे दिए गए परिप्रेक्ष्य की तार्किक समालोचना करते हुए समाधान प्रस्तुत करें। वस्तुतः शांति पुण्यकारी और नैतिकता का सर्वोच्च भाववाचक संज्ञा है। हालांकि अक्सर विविध प्रकार के आक्रमण से पीड़ित भुक्तभोगी जख्मी और मृतकों के उत्तराधिकारी प्रतिकार करते हैं। शांतिपूर्ण व्यवहार के लिए अनुनय विनय द्विपक्षीय और बहुपक्षीय स्तर पर विवादित विषय वस्तु के निराकरण के लिए राजनयिक प्रयास किए जाते हैं। कमज़ोर और दलित दमित वंचित पक्ष के सशक्तिकरण, जख्मियों के उपचार, जोखिमग्रस्त आवाम की सुरक्षित स्थानों पर प्रवास, युद्धबंदियों की प्रत्यर्पण, ध्वस्त अवसंरचनाओं के पुनर्निर्माण, युद्ध में मृतकों को शहीदी सम्मान, शहीदों के परिजनों को अनुकंपा अनुदान और युद्ध पीड़ित पक्षों के वैश्विक स्तर पर प्रवास के स्थलों पर सुरक्षा एवं व्यापारिक समझौतों द्वारा पुनः मैत्रीपूर्ण शांतिपूर्ण प्रगतिनिष्ठ संबंध स्थापित करने हेतु मानवाधिकार सुरक्षा बलों एवं संयुक्त राष्ट्र संघ की विविध निकायों द्वारा निरंतर प्रयास किए जाते हैं ताकि सतत प्रगतिनिष्ठ शांतिपूर्ण अंतर्राष्ट्रीय संबंध को सशक्त किए जा सकें और पीड़ितों को न्याय प्राप्त करने में सहयोग किया जा सके। दलितों दमितों के पुनरुत्थान के सामाजिक सुरक्षा सेवाएं दी जा सकें और वंचितों का विकास की मुख्य धारा में समावेश किया जा सके। The question appears as follows, like discuss the solution for given context rationally. Although peace is virtuous and epitome of ethical values and abstract noun, but usually victims, suffering population, injured and survivors of the dead follows retaliation against all kinds of attacks. Arbitration, persuasion and negotiations for peaceful behavior are promoted by regulatory bodies. Bilateral and multilateral diplomatic initiatives are taken to solve the issues of disputes promptly under supportive supervision of the United Nations and international regulatory bodies. Human Rights Protection Forces, United Nations Human Rights, Humanitarian Services Providing Organization, and United Nations entities regularly works to empower sustainable, peaceful, progressive international relations and supporting victims through law enforcement to receive legal protection and social security services support. Humanitarian services delivery includes following activities. Number 1. Empowerment of weaker, deprived, vulnerable and victims of any kind of exploitation. Treatment and health care of the injured. Rehabilitation of the vulnerable people to safer places. Extortion of the prisoners of war. Reconstruction of the devastated infrastructure. Martyrs Bravery Award to the people died during act of war. Compensatory grants and appointments to the survivors of the martyrs. Assuring security of the inhabitants of the either of the parties affected from act of war at the various places of the stay and migration across the globe. Resumption of the trade and commercial relationship between the members nations affected from consequences of war. social security services are availed for the renunciation of the victims, vulnerable, deprived, and marginalized communities to assure their social inclusion. Immediately ceasefire declaration is promoted as an effective peace building remedies. A status quo is maintained for the time being. Provocations are revoked at legal arbitration organization. Application of international laws are interpreted up to the extent of jurisprudence and juxtaprudence. De facto and de jure classification of the presented facts and evidences helps in drafting peace accord. Immediate ceasefire declaration is ordered for law and order maintenance by International Court of Justice. Dates for hearing of the arguments of the parties of disputes are scheduled. Objections are presented by advocates of the parties with due permission of the legal officer in charge. Objections are admitted. Rectification and amendment in terms of reference for peace accord are performed for respecting right of the all parties of agreement. Irrational objections are overruled. Adjournment of the court are ordered after official working hours for next hearing date. Prosecution, penalization, penalty charges are imposed. Criminals are punished. Prohibitive sanctions are imposed against offenders of laws. Compensation grants are charged for revival, recovery, and welfare of the victims. Membership of the eminent global institutions may be suspended for offenders of international peace laws and United Nations Charter. Global credit ratings of the offenders also decreases. Global trade volume decreases. Isolation and condemnation also increases at various bilateral and multilateral diplomacy forums. Recession related economic crisis often follows in war affected regions. Projected rate of GDP growth, gross domestic production growth of the arrogant member nations of the United Nations are decreased by World Economic Forum. Financial investment and grants from International Monetary Fund, IMF, World Bank, OECD, UNCTAD, FPIs, foreign portfolio investment, foreign institutional investment, foreign direct investment also decreases in convicted member nations of the war crime. There are historical vicious cycle of war. Thus, peaceful progressive international relations are endorsed into the era of neo-capitalism and socialistic capitalism oriented welfare governance model of global democratic member nations. So I have shared this presentation for your review. You can interpret various aspects of the given presentation and share your presentation at the forum of representation where you are allowed to speak, write, or represent your entity and organizations so that our consolidated efforts for promotion of global peace are recognized and awarded by competent authorities and peace prevails. Sri Ganeshaya Namaha.